The young boy watched his mother's coffin pass through the streets of London, walking behind it with millions of eyes upon him. William Arthur Philip Lewis was only 15 years old that September day in 1997, but the weight of an entire nation's grief rested on his shoulders. His younger brother Harry walked beside him, both boys trying to understand a world that had suddenly become much darker and more complicated. This moment would shape everything about the man Prince William would become. The loss of Princess Diana didn't just rob him of a mother. It showed him firstly how the monarchy could fail its people, and secondly, how desperately the royal family needed to change. Diana had been the people's princess because she understood something fundamental that the rest of the royal family had forgotten: the importance of genuine human connection. Growing up in the goldfish bowl of royal life, William experienced firsthand the suffocating protocols and endless formalities that created walls between the royals and ordinary people. He attended Eton College, where he excelled academically while trying to maintain some sense of normalcy. His friends remember him as someone who desperately wanted to be treated like everyone else, even though everyone knew he would one day be king. The decision to attend the University of St. Andrews in Scotland marked William's first real step toward creating his own path. Unlike previous heirs to the throne, he chose to live in regular student accommodation, cook his own meals, and walk to classes like any other undergraduate. It was there, in a small Scottish town far from the palace walls, that he met Catherine Middleton. Kate wasn't from aristocracy. Her parents had built a successful party supplies business, and she represented exactly the kind of fresh perspective William believed the monarchy needed. Their relationship developed slowly, away from the immediate glare of publicity, allowing them to build something genuine and lasting. When they briefly split in 2007, it only strengthened their bond when they reunited. Having learned they truly wanted to be together, William's military service further shaped his understanding of duty and service. Training at Sandhurst, then serving with the Blues and Royals Cavalry Regiment, he learned leadership from the ground up. His time as a search and rescue helicopter pilot with the Royal Air Force wasn't ceremonial. He was conducting real rescues, saving real lives, working night shifts like any other pilot. These experiences gave him insights into ordinary people's struggles that no amount of palace briefings could provide. The death of his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, in September 2022 marked a turning point. Suddenly, William wasn't just thinking about some distant future. He was next in line to the throne. His father Charles had become king at 73, but William was still in his 40s with young children. The reality of his destiny became immediate and pressing. As the new Prince of Wales, William began implementing changes almost immediately. He shocked royal watchers by announcing there would be no formal investiture ceremony in Wales. Instead of the pomp and pageantry that had marked his father's investiture decades earlier, William chose to focus on building genuine relationships with Welsh communities. This wasn't just about saving money. It was a statement about the kind of royal he intended to be. His approach to royal duties started evolving in ways that made traditionalists nervous. William began showing up at engagements with minimal entourage, sometimes surprising people by taking phone calls in restaurants or stopping at pubs to buy rounds of drinks. He found these informal interactions refreshing, a chance to connect with people without the usual barriers of protocol. The financial aspects of royalty also came under William's scrutiny. Taking control of the Duchy of Cornwall estate, he began examining how royal wealth could be better utilized for public benefit. He understood that in an era of economic uncertainty, the monarchy's vast resources needed to be seen as serving the people, not just maintaining palaces. William's parenting approach reflected his determination to prepare his children for a different kind of royal life. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis attended regular schools, played with non-royal children, and were being raised with an understanding that privilege comes with responsibility. William remembered the bubble he'd grown up in and was determined his children would have a broader perspective. The prince developed what observers called a philosophical immune system, an ability to hear criticism of the monarchy without becoming defensive, to consider different viewpoints while maintaining his core beliefs about service and duty. This intellectual flexibility set him apart from previous generations of royals who often seemed trapped by tradition. His work with mental health charities became a defining feature of his public role. William understood that showing vulnerability and discussing emotional struggles openly could help break down stigmas. He spoke publicly about his own grief over losing his mother, about the challenges of fatherhood, about the pressures of his position. This emotional honesty was revolutionary for a senior royal. As he entered his 40s, William's vision for the monarchy's future became clearer. He looked at smaller European monarchies, Sweden, Denmark, Spain, and saw models for a more streamlined, accessible institution. He began speaking privately about reducing the number of working royals, focusing on core activities that truly serve the public good. Friends noticed a growing confidence in William's approach. He wasn't trying to be his grandmother or his father. He was creating his own template for royal service. This sometimes created tension with King Charles, who had waited decades for his turn and had his own ideas about modernization. But William pressed forward, understanding that the monarchy's survival depended on evolution. The prince's commitment to environmental causes through his Earthshot Prize showed his understanding of global challenges. Rather than just lending his name to causes, William was actively involved in creating solutions, bringing together innovators and investors to address climate change. This hands-on approach to royal patronage represented a significant shift from traditional ribbon-cutting ceremonies. Behind palace doors, William was already participating in high-level meetings, learning the machinery of constitutional monarchy. He studied briefing papers late into the night, asked probing questions of advisors, and began developing relationships with political leaders across the spectrum. Unlike previous heirs who were kept at arm's length from real responsibility, William was being actively prepared for kingship. His marriage to Kate provided a stabilizing force. She understood the pressures he faced and shared his vision for a more approachable monarchy. Together, they presented a united front, modern parents juggling public duties with school runs and bedtime stories. Their obvious affection for each other and their children helped humanize the royal family in ways that formal portraits never could. As William looked toward the future, he carried with him the lessons of loss, the weight of destiny, and the determination to ensure the monarchy remained relevant for generations to come. The boy who had walked behind his mother's coffin had become a man ready to reshape an ancient institution for the modern world. His legacy was already taking shape, not in grand pronouncements or dramatic gestures, but in quiet reforms and genuine connections that would fundamentally alter what it meant to be royal. The morning of January 2024 started like any other in the Wales household. Children's laughter echoed through Adelaide Cottage as Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis prepared for school. William and Kate moved through their familiar routine, reviewing the day's engagements over breakfast. Neither could have imagined that within weeks, their carefully ordered world would be turned upside down. The first blow came when King Charles received his cancer diagnosis. The news hit William like a physical force. His father, who had waited so long to become king, was now facing a battle that would test every ounce of his strength. For William, it meant suddenly stepping into roles and responsibilities he thought he'd have years to prepare for. Then came the devastating second diagnosis. Kate, his rock and partner in everything, discovered she too had cancer. The woman who had brought such warmth and accessibility to the royal family now faced her own health crisis. William found himself in an impossible position, supporting his father, his wife, and trying to shield his young children from the full weight of what was happening. Behind closed doors at Adelaide Cottage, William struggled with emotions he couldn't show in public. Royal biographer Robert Jobson would later reveal that the prince was shaken to the core by the dual diagnoses. The man trained from birth to maintain composure in any situation found himself navigating the most personal of crises while the world watched. The children needed normalcy, needed to believe everything would be okay. William became masterful at compartmentalizing, being a reassuring father at breakfast, a supportive son at palace meetings, a devoted husband during hospital visits, and a future king at public engagements. Each role demanded everything he had, leaving him exhausted but determined. Kate's approach to her diagnosis reflected the grace that had made her beloved by millions. She chose to be open about her journey, releasing carefully crafted videos that showed her with the children in Norfolk, speaking honestly about the challenges while maintaining an optimistic outlook. William stood steadfastly by her side, his pride in her courage evident even as worry etched lines on his face. The practical challenges were immense. With both the King and Princess of Wales undergoing treatment, the royal calendar threatened to collapse. William found himself taking on an unprecedented workload, supporting Princess Catherine during her health challenges, the emotional demands of young children, and, on top of that, his duties as heir to the throne, created a perfect storm of pressure. Royal expert Hilary Fordwich observed that William was extremely determined to protect his family while modernizing the monarchy during this period. He understood that the future of the monarchy depends on his approval ratings, so he's under considerable pressure. It was really causing him significant stress. The stress manifested in private moments of overwhelming emotion. During a visit to Wales, William met Rhian Mannings, who had lost her husband to suicide after the death of their young son. As she shared her story, the usually composed prince fought back tears. The conversation, caught on video, showed a different William. Vulnerable, deeply empathetic, understanding loss in ways that transcended royal protocol. Throughout 2024, William's schedule became a delicate balance. Mornings were sacred family time. He refused to take engagements before 10 a.m., ensuring he could have breakfast with the children and help with school preparations. By 4 p.m., he was back home, maintaining the stability his family desperately needed during uncertain times. This schedule drew criticism from some quarters. Anti-monarchy campaigner Graham Smith called him an incredibly lazy man who manages to get a pretty small splashing of engagements to look like he is busy. But those close to the situation understood the reality. William was working harder than ever, just differently than previous generations of royals. The burden of increased constitutional duties weighed heavily. William found himself in meetings that had previously been his father's domain, studying state papers, consulting with government officials, preparing for a role that seemed to be approaching faster than anticipated. Palace insiders noted he was being rapidly eased into his future royal role, with the king delegating more responsibilities than many realized. In a moment of desperation, William approached his father about reducing his workload. According to Jobson's account, he asked King Charles to reconsider the crushing schedule of engagements. The response was swift and decisive. Charles urged his son to think again. The king, despite his own health battles, believed the monarchy needed to maintain its visible presence. This refusal created a defining moment for William. Rather than accepting the traditional approach, he began quietly revolutionizing how royal duties could be performed. He started combining engagements, using technology to connect with charities virtually, and focusing on quality over quantity in his public appearances. The Earthshot Prize ceremony in South Africa became a particularly poignant moment. Traveling without Kate, who was still recovering, William put on a brave face for the global environmental initiative he had founded, but in quiet moments with journalists, his guard dropped. Speaking about the year his family had endured, William's voice carried the weight of exhaustion and pain. "It's been dreadful. It's probably been the hardest year in my life," he continued. "Trying to get through everything else and keep everything on track has been really difficult." Yet, even in expressing his struggle, William showed the evolution in royal emotional intelligence. Previous generations would never have admitted such vulnerability, but William understood that showing his humanity didn't diminish his authority. It enhanced it. "I'm so proud of my wife. I'm proud of my father, for handling the things that they have done. But from a personal family point of view, it's been brutal." The experience of 2024 fundamentally changed William's approach to royal duty. He saw firsthand how quickly circumstances could change, how fragile the institution could become when key figures were suddenly unavailable. It reinforced his conviction that the monarchy needed to evolve, to become more flexible and resilient. Mental health became an even more central focus of his work. His conversation with Eugene Levy revealed a man grappling with trauma while trying to prevent others from experiencing similar pain. Change for good became his mission, with a determination that the royal family wouldn't go back to some of the practices in the past that had failed him and Harry during their childhood grief. The establishment of the National Suicide Prevention Network showed William channeling personal pain into public good, understanding how quickly someone could move from apparent happiness to crisis. As Rhian Manning's husband had, William threw himself into creating support systems that could catch people before they fell. By autumn 2024, both Kate and Charles were showing improvement. Kate's gradual return to public duties was met with relief and joy from the public. Her appearance at Remembrance Sunday, standing beside William and Charles, symbolized the family's resilience. But those who knew them well could see the changes. A family that had faced mortality and emerged different. William's transformation was perhaps the most profound. The prince who had entered 2024 as a dutiful heir emerged as a leader shaped by crisis. He had learned that being royal wasn't about maintaining distance but about sharing humanity. He had discovered that strength could coexist with vulnerability. That duty didn't require sacrificing family. As the year drew to a close, William reflected on lessons learned in the crucible of crisis. He understood now that the monarchy's strength lay not in its traditions but in its ability to adapt. The formal protocols and rigid hierarchies that had defined royal life for centuries suddenly seemed less important than genuine connection and emotional authenticity. The boy who had lost his mother had become a man who refused to lose himself in the role. The prince who had supported his family through their darkest hours had emerged with a clear vision for a different kind of monarchy. The hardest year of his life had become the one that defined his approach to kingship, leading with empathy, balancing duty with humanity, and never forgetting that even future kings are, first and foremost, husbands and fathers. Standing before the media in Cape Town, Prince William delivered words that sent ripples through royal circles worldwide. He spoke of doing royalty with a smaller R in the royal, a simple phrase that encapsulated a revolutionary vision for the British monarchy's future. This wasn't just a soundbite for the press. It was a declaration of intent from a future king, determined to reshape an institution that had remained largely unchanged for centuries. The prince's vision for modernization wasn't born from rebellion but from observation. He had watched European monarchies adapt and thrive while maintaining their dignity. Spain's King Felipe had stripped his sister of her princess title amid scandal. Denmark's Queen Margrethe had removed princely titles from her youngest son's children. These weren't acts of cruelty, but of preservation, ensuring the monarchy remained relevant and respected in modern society. William's plans for his own coronation revealed the depth of his commitment to change. Sources close to the prince indicated he envisioned a ceremony much simpler than the elaborate spectacle that had marked his father's coronation. One insider revealed William's historical perspective. Look at the coronations of medieval kings. They were staggeringly simple. Keep things that are pertinent to today, that reflect diversity, and get back to the core of it. The controversial moment during Charles's coronation when the public was asked to swear allegiance would have no place in William's ceremony. There is no way he will go down that route or anything like it, confirmed palace sources. Even the imperial state crown, that symbol of royal power, faced an uncertain future. Some claimed William saw it as a ridiculous thing that looks like it's out of Disney, though others insisted he felt sentimental about its connection to his grandmother and father. Behind palace walls, tensions emerged between father and son over the pace and extent of change. A senior member of the royal household observed that William sometimes seems to forget, whether by accident or design, that there is a hierarchy and that he ranks one below his father. The prince's reluctance to show deference even to the king suggested a man already thinking and acting like a monarch in waiting. This confidence manifested in practical ways. William took control of shooting parties at Balmoral and Sandringham, traditionally the sovereign's domain. He participated in high-level constitutional meetings, absorbing information and building relationships that would serve him as king. Unlike previous heirs kept at arm's length from real power, William was being given unprecedented access to the machinery of monarchy. His financial approach marked another departure from tradition. Understanding public sensitivity about royal wealth, especially during economic uncertainty, William began examining how every pound of royal money was spent. The Duchy of Cornwall, under his management, started new initiatives focusing on environmental sustainability and community benefit. This wasn't just good PR. It reflected a fundamental belief that royal wealth must serve public good. The prince's most radical vision involved the very structure of the royal family itself. Looking at the small European monarchies as the model for the future, William imagined a dramatically streamlined institution. Royal expert Richard Eden received information that by the time William ascended the throne, he and Catherine may be the only full-time royals under 60 years old. This vision created immediate controversies, particularly regarding his cousins. Royal biographer Andrew Lowney revealed William's plans meant no titles for Beatrice, Eugenie, in the future monarchy. The prince reportedly wanted the York princesses to go away, seeing their father's scandals as a liability the monarchy couldn't afford. His reaction to Charles naming Beatrice as a patron of Outward Bound shortly after Andrew's disgrace was telling. William was aghast at what he saw as undermining efforts to modernize. The approach to royal duties underwent fundamental revision. William's insistence on not working before 10 a.m. or after 4 p.m. initially drew criticism, but it reflected deeper philosophy. Quality mattered more than quantity. A single, meaningful engagement that created genuine impact was worth more than dozens of ribbon cuttings and ceremonial appearances. Technology became a tool for modernization. Virtual engagements, once unthinkable for royals, became part of William's regular routine. He understood that digital connectivity could extend royal reach without the costs and carbon footprint of constant travel. This wasn't about doing less. It was about doing more efficiently. His communication style broke every traditional royal rule. Taking calls in restaurants, buying drinks in pubs, stopping for impromptu conversations. William found these informal moments refreshing, to be able to interact without all the fuss that generally goes with a royal visit. Former BBC correspondent Jenny Bond noted this approach was extremely effective from a public relations perspective. The emphasis on mental health and emotional intelligence represented perhaps the most significant cultural shift. William's tears during conversations about suicide, his open discussion of family struggles, his admission that 2024 had been brutal. These moments would have been unthinkable for previous royal generations. Yet William understood that emotional authenticity created deeper connections than stoic distance ever could. Education for royal children transformed under William's guidance. George, Charlotte, and Louis attended regular schools, played with non-royal friends, and learned that privilege came with responsibility, not entitlement. William remembered his own bubble of isolation and was determined his children would understand the real world they would one day serve. The philosophical immune system William developed allowed him to hear criticism without defensiveness. When Graham Smith called him lazy, when Republicans questioned the monarchy's relevance, when traditionalists worried about too much change, William listened, considered, and continued forward with his vision. He understood that evolution required thick skin and clear purpose. Environmental leadership through the Earthshot Prize showcased William's global ambitions. This wasn't traditional royal patronage but active creation of solutions. By bringing together innovators, investors, and activists, William demonstrated how modern royalty could catalyze real change, rather than merely lending ceremonial support. The relationship with the media evolved significantly. Instead of the traditional approach of minimal interaction punctuated by formal interviews, William embraced strategic openness. He understood that mystery had once protected the monarchy, but now transparency built trust. Calculated vulnerability replaced cultivated distance. Women's roles in William's monarchy would expand dramatically. Kate's position as future queen consort carried real influence and responsibility. Princess Anne's work ethic became a model, but the trimming of peripheral royals meant focusing support on those actively contributing rather than those simply carrying titles. International relations took on new importance in William's vision. He studied how other monarchies maintained relevance: Sweden's focus on environmental issues, Spain's emphasis on business promotion, Denmark's cultural ambassadorship. The British monarchy, William believed, needed to earn its place on the world stage through action, not assumption. The prince's approach to faith evolved from his grandmother's traditional Anglican devotion. While respecting the monarch's role as supreme governor of the Church of England, William embraced interfaith dialogue and secular spirituality. Royal sources noted both he and Kate had become more religious, but in a personal rather than institutional way. Critics worried about the implications of William's reforms. Royal correspondent Richard Eden admitted being worried about the future of the monarchy. Under William's streamlined vision, would removing the pageantry and reducing the royal family's size diminish its appeal? Would modernization mean losing the magic that made monarchy special? William's response to such concerns remained consistent. The monarchy's magic lay not in golden carriages and ancient ceremonies but in service and connection. A smaller, more focused royal family could achieve more than a bloated institution clinging to outdated traditions. The goal wasn't destruction but evolution. As William moved through his 40s, the timeline for his ascension remained uncertain. Charles, despite health challenges, showed no signs of abdicating. This gave William time to refine his plans, build support, and gradually implement changes that would seem natural by the time he took the throne. The legacy taking shape was clear: a monarchy that looked forward rather than backward, that embraced emotion alongside duty, that understood service meant more than ceremony. William's reforms wouldn't please everyone. Traditionalists mourned the loss of grandeur while Republicans argued changes weren't enough. But William pressed forward, convinced that adaptation meant survival. The prince who had learned about loss too young, who had supported his family through their darkest hours, who had chosen love over lineage in marrying Kate. This was the man reshaping the monarchy for the 21st century. His legacy wouldn't be measured in ceremonies attended or ribbons cut, but in whether the institution he inherited remained relevant for his children and grandchildren. As William looked toward his eventual coronation, he carried with him the lessons of his mother's common touch, his grandmother's dedication to duty, and his own generation's understanding that authenticity mattered more than authority. The future king was building a bridge between ancient tradition and modern reality, ensuring the monarchy would survive not as a relic, but as a living institution serving real people in meaningful ways. The crown would eventually rest on William's head, but it would be a different crown. Lighter in ceremony, heavier in responsibility, forever changed by a prince who dared to imagine royalty with a smaller R, but a larger heart. His legacy was already written in reforms begun, connections made, and a vision of monarchy that honored the past while embracing the future.